Yura, and welcome to Term 3, Week 6 of our Religious Education and Prosper Pilgrimage, where we're being invited on a journey of the growth of our character strengths so that we can continue to grow spiritually. Last week, our Oblate community was on our annual retreat where we prayed for you all. This period of renewal each year helps us to continue to be people of humble service, and thank you for your prayers for us. This week's character strength is humility, for which the students is found at number 17, while for me, it's placed at number 22. What a great opportunity we all have to take a good look at ourselves and to see what we stand for and what we wish to build in our friendship group, our school community, our churches, our life, and our local area. In last week's reflection on leadership, I invited you to be confident and humble, and maybe you never considered that these two things could be considered together. I think they provide a wonderful opportunity for each and every one of us. He who is greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted, according to the Gospel of Matthew. Humility is the most basic of all the Christian beliefs. In order to believe in God, we need to be humble. Humility allows us to believe in someone greater than ourselves. In order to love, we need to be humble. Humility allows us to forget ourselves at times and to love our neighbour. What is humility? If we were to reach or research a proper definition, we would find that there are a number of definitions for this fundamental virtue. But of all the definitions that I've ever come across, I found a definition from St. Teresa of Avila to be the most helpful. She said that humility is living in the truth. And when you consider this definition carefully, it makes a lot of sense. We're supposed to live in the truth of our relationship with God, ourselves, and our neighbour. First of all, we need to remember that God is God and that we are not. We live out our relationship with God by being lovingly obedient. Secondly, we live in the truth with ourselves by being just who we are and not trying to be something that we are not. And finally, we live in the truth with our neighbour through mutual respect, kindness, and acceptance. Humble people are delightful to work with and easy to live with. Humble people make great friends and are always fun to be with. Humility is not an easy virtue to acquire. Pereidatos lived in Sparta in ancient Greece, and a group of 300 men were to be chosen to govern Sparta. Though Pereidatos was a candidate, his name was not on the final list. And some of his friends sought to console him, but he simply replied, "I'm glad that in Sparta there are 300 men better than I." He became a legend because of his willingness to stand aside while others took the places of glory and honor. Humility is a gift, and we need to ask God to make us humble. But asking for humility is not enough. We need to do acts of humility. We have many opportunities every day to do many acts of humility. The more we exercise this virtue of humility, the humbler we will become. The opposite of the virtue of humility is pride. Pride is a very ugly sin that causes terrible disharmony, division, and ultimately sadness. Humble Ionians are people filled with joy and peace. Humble Ionians know how to build community and be team players. Humble Ionians are wonderful to be with because they are forgetful of themselves. Humble Ionians are kind and compassionate to all those around them. They are not doormats, but they can be hurt by others. The proud cultivate an inflated notion of their own consequences. They attribute to themselves those personal traits, abilities, or attributes that they may not really possess. The only remedy for pride is the virtue of humility. Many of the ills that affect our Catholic Church, our school, our society can be resolved with a big dosage of humility. We always need to be on guard and never be dominated by the sin of pride. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and we're called to imitate his way of life. He's the model of humility. He washed feet. He forgave and ate with sinners. He emptied himself to be of service to others. And I think that any reading of our college history book, Iona Hill, A Story Worth Sharing, would see that Iona is at its best when it's confident and humble. Confident in trusting God, caring for others, and being who we are, and humble in knowing that we are no better or worse than any other learning school community. In previous videos, I've shared with you our belief that a legitimate aim for Iona was not to be one of the best schools in this community, which is pride, but to be one of the best schools for this community, which is humility. Dismantling elitism in its many forms, whether it's the hero worship of talented people, believing that we are better than anyone else, remembering our humble farmhouse heritage, and offering a seat or space on public transport is a very Ionian and oblate thing to do. Without keeping an eye on our humbleness, we can easily and definitely get ahead of ourselves and portray an image that betrays our faith in God and our heritage as an oblate school. St. Eugene de Mazenod asked us to see the world through the eyes of Christ. These humble eyes mean that if we commit to seeing in this way, we will see the very many people and issues that otherwise might have been missed. We are invited to reach out to those who would otherwise have been left out. We don't need to look too far, as it might be the person sitting right next to you, in front of you, behind you now. You might see them on the train, in the playground, on the football field, or on the courts. The humble eyes of Christ do not miss them. Your families chose Iona in order to support them in raising you, and your families work hard in order to provide opportunities for you. I never forget that I'm from Hemant and that my family made a priority of education for my brother, sister, and I, and gave us opportunities that built upon the ones that they were given by their families. You are at your best Ionian selves when you are grateful and humble for the gifts that you've been given. In other words, we are called to make sure that we keep our feet on the ground and our eyes looking with compassion and hope. Sport and music play a huge role within our culture of the school, and nearly every single student finds a way to be involved. And under the leadership of Mr. Harron, Mr. Lahulier, and all their teams, we have people of great integrity that take great care to ensure that we react with humbleness and respect for other schools with whenever competition exists. We know what it feels like to be humiliated by others, and it's a great desire of ours that our culture never does that to any other school community. I've previously indicated that it is your teamwork that I love to see in both music and sport, but please know that it's your humbleness that sustains and honours our culture. When the Oblates worked with families to begin this college, they did so with a humble trust in God, and we're called to continue to do the same. Kia kaha, stay strong, stay humble. Thank you.